called it madness, because that's what the weak always call what they fear. You were different. You didn't bow, you didn't beg, you didn't break. So they gave you names to keep themselves comfortable. Crazy, dangerous, too far gone, because the truth scared them. The truth that beneath your silence lived a force so raw, so pure, so untamable that even the gods would tremble. They called it madness, but it was a storm you refused to let die. You were never meant to be understood. You weren't born for their applause. You weren't sculpted by their systems. You were shattered by reality and rebuilt by your own hands. They said you were unstable, but you were just too powerful to cage. They said you were reckless, but you just weren't afraid to destroy what tried to destroy you. They said you lost control, but the truth, you took control of what they never could, your own mind. While they ran from their demons, you shook hands with yours. While they masked their fear with fake smiles, you stared into the void and smiled back. They feared the voices in your head, but you turned them into commands. They wanted you docile, obedient, tame, because a tame soul is easier to kill. But you were not built for a leash. You were born for war, a war not of blood, but of becoming. They tried to isolate you, but solitude became your forge. They tried to humiliate you, but shame became your steel. They tried to bury you in silence, but that silence became your kingdom. And now look at them, the same ones who called you mad. They whisper your name behind closed doors. They mimic your fire, but they can't withstand your heat. They study your moves, but they'll never grasp your mind, because you didn't just survive. You became the weapon they never thought could be made. Not by birth, not by luck, but by fire, by pain, by 1,000 nights no one saw, where you bled, crawled, screamed, and stood alone. And through it all, you didn't fall apart. You transcended. You walked through your own funeral. You buried your old self. You stood over your own grave and said, "That version of me is gone. Now it's time they meet what I've become." You see, madness was never the curse. It was the catalyst. They thought you were cracking, but you were peeling back the limits. They thought you were falling, but you were descending into yourself, into something deeper, darker, more real than they could ever handle. You weren't breaking, you were awakening. Now your pain is your compass, your rage is your engine, your silence is your sword, and your story, it's a prophecy, not written in words, but in scars, in battles, in defiance, in silence so loud it deafens the world. So let them call it madness. Let them point, let them scream, let them run, because they always run when gods walk among them. You didn't ask for a crown. You built a throne out of ruins. You didn't wait for acceptance. You commanded respect. You are no longer part of their story. You are the storm outside their gates, the fire in the sky, the echo they can't erase, the nightmare that came back evolved. So remember, when they call it madness, smile, because madness is what made you. Madness is what freed you. Madness is what burned the old world down and made way for the one where you stand alone, unshaken, unbroken, unforgiven, unstoppable. They called it madness. You made it power.